Hey, welcome to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, and this is the show where women share their personal power tools, which I define as the tools, techniques, or strategies which have enabled their success in life and business. I ask all of my guests to be real, raw, honest, authentic, and vulnerable, dare I say. So this is a girl chat show like no other, where we really do dive into what it is to be a powerful woman, the real tools behind a woman's success. Now, if you're on this channel, do hit that subscribe button right now and hit the bell to make sure that you're notified when new shows are added. You can also subscribe to find us on Instagram, which is at Lovelda Show. You'll find all links that have been shared in the show in the show notes. And right now we're going to hop straight over whilst I do a audio introduction before we jump into the full show. So let's get started. Hey, chicas, welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their success in life and business. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, an international MC and female speaking business coach on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. Now, this is a girl chat show like no other. All of my guests get real, raw, and authentic as they share what I can only describe as pure gold nuggets of wisdom. And today's episode is no different. We'll be uncovering the power tools of LaToya Ebony. LaToya is a professional actress and YouTube video content creator. LaToya began her YouTube channel journey back in 2020 when she decided to document her journey embracing the natural texture of her tightly coiled hair. Now, that channel now boasts over 83,000 subscribers. As a woman with 4C hair type, her channel offers fun and easy to digest natural hair tips and hairstyles how-to videos for women with type 4 hair. She strives to inspire women to confidently showcase their textured hair to the world. In this episode, we'll talk about the relationship between our hair and beauty and the beautiful freedom that we can feel when we can unleash our hair and fall back in love with the hair that we were naturally born with without shame. In fact, I brought LaToya on because do you know what? We'll wait till we get into it. I will share the story that has led us to this point as I have commenced my own natural hair journey. And I can tell you, ladies, I've been feeling a little piece of shame. So I felt it was a conversation that we needed to bring to the forefront. Now, listen. If you're ready to get paid more for sharing your expertise to show up in a bigger, bolder, better ways, then please download your free copy of my Speaker Marketing Blueprint, your guide to getting speaker marketing assets that match and reflect your expertise and increase your fee, regardless of if you're brand new to speaking or ready to level up. You will also find links to all of my special offers in the show notes, including how to sign up for the holiday draw. All you gotta do is go to @Lovelda Show, make sure that you like us on Instagram and leave a comment tagging us. You'll also find links to the Find Speaking Gigs Accelerator and Nail Your Niche program, where the doors are still currently open. Links to anything shared by my guests is also in the show notes. And before I forget, PS, if you want to make sure that you get your regular fix of this show, please hit that subscribe button to make sure that you get updates as soon as a new show is added. Well, that is more than enough from me for now. So let's dive in and get on with the show. Hey, chicas, welcome back to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. We're almost near the end. I kind of want to cry. We will do a season 3, but we're not done yet. So I'm not going to shed a tear just yet. And I am bringing the big guns today. So as y'all know, I'm gonna have to give you a backstory to today's guest. So my thing is unleashing authentic, powerful female voices. And there's a big emphasis on this word authentic, right? But the thing is, we had this thing called COVID this year. And what COVID did was it kept me in my house. And if you're not watching this, I'm a Black woman with relaxed hair, which means I go in and I chemically straighten my hair. Well, I couldn't get to the hairdressers. So I decided that maybe I'll just let my hair grow out. Now, So it's been a journey and a half. Let me just put it there. But anyway, before I digress, the thing that happened was I put my hair in braids for ease during lockdown because it was too much like down hard work. So I braided that thing up, just locked it away, right? Locked it away. And it was going really well until I got a call to film something for somebody. And then I found myself having a moment where I thought, do I need to tell them I have braids? And then I thought, oh, does this mean I've linked my identity to my hair? Is there something else going on here? Anyhow, so I jumped on YouTube and I was watching every YouTube video about black hair and transition. It's called transitioning, folks, if you don't know. And I bumped into this lady on the Tinterweb on YouTube. She's a big YouTube hit, sensation. Bumped into her and she was talking about her hair journey and the idea of identity and hair. And then I ended up on there for like hours on end. So I just had to connect with her and bring her onto the show. That's pretty much the short end of the story. But she is an actress. She is a YouTube sensation. And she has some awesome, incredible tips. If you are a lady like me who has gone from relaxed hair and due to COVID is now deciding to go back to your natural hair, but you ain't got a clue what to do. Right? You know, at least listen in to this show. So please welcome my guest today, LaToya Ebony.
Hey, I'm doing jazz hands right now.
So what's really cool is because you're a YouTuber and an actor, like this, does it feel weird? Does it feel weird the camera's talking to you?
You know what? I have to pretend that you're this director in my ear telling me like, stay locked, stay focused, but you're giving me the feedback. That's exactly how it feels to me. So, it takes some getting used to, but I got it. We got this.
We got this. So I'm interested. So I watched quite a few of your YouTube videos. I think they're awesome. I love the way that you deliver and they're just really fun. But now I get to kind of get underneath the hood, the hood of the car and ask all the questions. Like I stored up the juicy questions for this. So was your hair always natural or did you kind of decide that you were going to do a me? And I mean, it wasn't COVID related. It wasn't imposed upon you because you couldn't get to the hairdresser. But what had you decide to change your hair? Like I say, change your hair. To own your hair is probably a better term for it.
I love that. You know what? I grew up with a cosmetologist. My mother, she is a licensed cosmetologist. She does hair for a living. She's amazing at it. And so my hair has been in every way you could possibly have it. Long braids down to my booty, waterfall, super stiff hairstyles. It's been relaxed. I've had a jerry curl, which was called a wave nouveau. And I would basically just
Girl, you done everything.
Well, let me tell you, if you are, so let me back it up. I started having questions about my hair when I got to college. And, I went to a very diverse college. I went to Buffalo State College, which has, it was an amazing experience because, I was immersed into all of these different cultures and ethnicities. And so there was Caribbean, there was, African, there were African-Americans, there were Caucasians, there were Asians, there was everyone there. And I ended up being very active, not only in the theater community, but also in like the African-American student organization and like Black Active Minds, things like that. So I wanted to make sure that I was still getting those experiences because, in general, when it comes to education, we're not learning about ourselves. And so a lot of times, you lose that part of you. And in the theater department, there weren't very many Black people in general. So I was like, you know what? I could be completely a theater nerd, which I love y'all. We got the jazz hands and the box steps and all that. But I definitely need to make sure that I'm immersing myself in my community. And there were, a few people there who had natural hair, very, very few and far between. As a matter of fact, I think the only people that I saw with their hair natural were people of African descent, like actual African Americans in the literal sense. And so, that piqued my interest a little. But for me, I would always go through this I would always transition. I had transitioned like 4 times before I actually decided to completely stay natural. It was always, my hair is breaking off. I'm going to grow my natural hair out. And then once it gets long enough, I'm going to relax it again. That was the pattern for me. And for some reason, it never clicked in my head. Like,
maybe it's the relaxer that's breaking up the hair.
But that's the thing, like everyone knows the chemical process and how it's damaging to the strand of the hair. And of course I grew up with a cosmetologist, so it's a known thing, but it's just what you do, to look presentable. And my mother had, when you talk about, having speaking engagements and wondering about like, oh, how should I do my hair? How can I, play the part or look the part, to the masses? And that's something that's been conditioned in us for so long. And my mother, I don't want to say fell victim to this, but I mean, in a sense, yes, even being a cosmetologist and having that knowledge that was still ingrained, your hair is not done. And I would get my hair relaxed and I hated the first week. Bone straight, give me some volume, And so by the second week, my hair is bushier. I'm like, yes, I love this. I've washed it. And my mother would be like, so,
when are you going to get your hair done?
What you doing with your hair today? I'm like, this is the style. And so it never clicked to me. And it wasn't honestly until I got to graduate school that I really was pondering this idea of like, why are we so ashamed of our hair? Like, what is going on here? Why don't I feel beautiful without, in high school, I wore hazel contacts and I went through this
You did everything to cover up.
Ciao. And like, like my body type was athletic, I had a baby. It's a little different now. You can't see the muscles, but I naturally have like a mesoendomorph sort of body type where I build muscle very easily. I had larger calves. I was surrounded by mainly Caucasians and were very slender. I just always was kind of different. So I was wanting to beautify myself. I wanted to wear the hazel contacts. I wanted to wear the weaves. And, back then you didn't tell people it was a weave. You just pretended. And one day.
It's mine. I bought it.
It was not a trend to say you were wearing a wig back then. I think I was the first person I'd ever known to wear a wig. My mother, she was in there, with all the knowledge. But anyway, I did this, transition where I took out my hazel contacts and I'm like, I knew it. You don't have hazel eyes. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it is what it is. And then when I was in grad school, I just thought, if all of the relaxers were gone, and all of the makeup were gone and all of these things were gone, like, would I still look in the mirror and love myself? Would I still think
that is a question, isn't it? Like, when it's all gone, will I still be able to look in the mirror and love myself? Like, that is a question to ask yourself before the new year is in. That is a meditation question right there. That's a big one.
Yes. And in my graduate program, because I have a master's in acting, so it was this MFA program, I was the only Black person in the classroom. And I would have these conversations about hair and, they were so confused and they'd be like, excuse me. Yeah, that's the sound they made. Excuse me. What's wrong with your hair though? I don't get it. They did not understand it. They're like, I think, Black people's hair is great, and it's so interesting, that turnaround, because, when you see today people that are Caucasian, they will say, well, I don't get what the big deal is. When their ancestors were the ones who implemented the idea that it was ugly or unkempt or whatever. So it's such a weird 180 we're doing today. And it's like, well, if you look at the history, and so it's this weird thing that happens in your head, which goes, well, how come you don't understand?
Yeah, I think we forget we're growing up in different times, right? And
exactly.
And we've all got the voices of my mother and my sister went natural. And I honestly, at the beginning this year. I was like, hell, if you told me last year that I'd even be considering it, my mom and my sister have been saying, so when I'm like, never. Like, are you kidding me? Do you know how much work that is? Do you know how much work it was for me to figure out how to deal with it straight? And you want me to add kinks in? No, not going to happen. Not going to happen. I ain't got time. And my husband's really funny because when I took my braids out the first time, it was really frizzy. And he's like, oh my God, I really love your hair. He goes, I know it's a lot of work, but I really love it like that. And I'm like, really? Do you know how messy it is? Do you know what a hot mess it looks like? And all I can remember though, like I genuinely couldn't remember what my hair looked like because he said, so what does your natural curls look like? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen it in years. So I can't tell you. It might be beautiful. It might be a hot mess. I genuinely don't know. We're going to have to wait a few months and wait till it grows out to see what it looks like. But this idea of it being a shameful thing, if you had asked me, I would never have told you I was ashamed of my natural hair. That would not have been what I would have said because I didn't acknowledge it as that. As far as I was concerned, it was about being professional. That's literally it. Like this is easier for me to deal with. So it was practical and it was professional. But in that, what is to say, it's only when I sat with it, once I started transitioning and I had that moment where I was like, maybe I should call them and tell them my hair is braided. And I just thought, but why? Like, if I had bone straight hair and I changed the color of it, unless I changed it to bright yellow, I probably Simpson yellow is what I mean. I probably wouldn't call them and tell them that I'd changed it. Like if it was brown and I went blonde, I just probably wouldn't say anything. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. So why do I feel like I have to announce it? Like, is it going to be, not even announce it? I was literally going to ask, is it okay? And I was like, damn girl, what's going on here? So that's deep. It's deep, right?
Yeah, that's so deep. And I mean, and let's not forget the locked community and how they're still being told that they can't walk across stage if they have locks. So it's not like you're crazy. This is something that's literally been ingrained. And when it comes to what is quote unquote professional, there's a uniform to that, suits, women wearing, suit coats, dress pants, this kind of woman wears, if you're a successful woman, it's almost like you have to alter yourself so that you are playing the game, they say, especially, so there's women and then Black women, right? And so we're constantly having to context switch in so many ways, and our hair included. So the question of, should I tell them is, I think that's a common, it's ridiculous, but it's so common. And so I feel for you. I think we've all been there. Even when I decided to go natural, I called my mother, who's the cosmetologist, and she's like, you have such a conservative personality. I just feel like straight hair goes with you. And, when you go on your auditions, I just feel that it kind of fits the package is essentially what she's saying. And she's referring to, as an actress, we get breakdowns, right? African-American, mid-30s, professional woman, and it's up to you to show up, sort of fitting what you think that looks like.
Yeah.
And so, we do this in life in general, right? And so for it to translate to our hair, especially as, people of African descent, that's normal because we've been sort of brainwashed, right? Into this like uniform of what's acceptable and what's not. And especially in business, that definitely translates. So I'm not surprised at all.
So now I kind of really want to understand how you managed to flick the switch, because girl, your hair be looking flick. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I didn't know my hair could do that. I wonder if my hair could do what LaToya's hair does. I need to check it out. Now I'm like excited. Like I want to see what the curl pattern looks like and I want to check it out. But what happened for you that, got you to a place where you could really own it and love it? And and just be like, this is me and this is my hair and I think it's beautiful. And if you don't, that's fine, because somebody else will think it's beautiful. Was there a particular moment or something that happened that got you to a place where you're like, it's just me and it's cool and I'm going to rock it?
Yeah, you know what? I really, there's so many layers to this. Like, so representation really does matter. And at the time when I was transitioning, which is the funnest part, I mean, it's the hardest part because you're dealing with the layer of the emotional turmoil that you're feeling, right? And you're learning how to do something completely new and you're working with two different textures. So it's not—
Don't even get me started on the two textures.
You know what I mean? So, you know, that is a learning and it's an emotional growth that you're going through. And then once the relaxer's cut off, you're going through something again, you know, where now you have a completely different pattern and texture, and you're learning how to what's the word that I want to use? You're learning how to care for that hair. So but it's so exciting, right? Like wondering what your curl pattern is going to be. And so I was stuck in that phase in the beginning, and I was looking at a lot of blogs. Like there was like Keep It Simple Sista, the Long Hair Forum, a Black Long Hair. There was like all of these websites back then because YouTube hadn't really blown up. This was around like 2010. So I think YouTube had been around for about 5 years. And I went on the internet, I made a video. I used to do makeup tutorials because I was obsessed with the makeup department, but anyway, and in costumes and things like that. But anyway, eventually I started to talk about my hair. And I had this video and I'm literally crying because I'm talking about my boyfriend says that he doesn't like the unkempt look. And I just was like, what is that? And I remember thinking, I really want to be beautiful, and just getting so emotional about that. And I said, you know what, if I feel this way, then someone else out there has to feel this way. Someone else has to be as curious as I am. And so I started to, you know, go on these these sort of forum websites, and I started to see people going through the same process. And you know, even at that point, I'm thinking, ooh, I want the curls that she has. Ooh, some 3Cs. Oh my gosh, you know, or even the 4As, like, and just feeling like, oh, I'm good. That's what I'm gonna have, because I didn't see anyone with 4C hair, which is one of the coilest, like the tightest curl that you can have. I didn't see anyone that looked like me. So I'm thinking, oh, well, this is it. And then we had the dumb ignorance of thinking, and I say we because it wasn't just me, oh, if the lighter your skin, the looser your curl pattern. Like there were so many.
Sorry, I should laugh.
Like, oh, I'm in the mirror, practically doing the brown paper bag test. Like, how outdated is that? Like, but in my head, being like, oh, well, you know, I'm kind of light, you know. California did give me a bit of a tan, but like, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not exactly brown skin. So like, and I'm doing all this. This is 2010, you guys. And trying to figure it out. And then when you're transitioning, you really can't see it because the natural, the relaxed hair is weighing everything down, da, da, da. So for me, the real transition the real transition for me was when I cut off the relaxer and being like, oh, there are no curls. Where are my curls? Wait, I think I see a coil there. Well, hold on. Let me put some gel on this or something. Like, what's going on? And so I remember being really let down at first and being like, well, what the hell is this? And I'm looking at these like hair charts and I'm going, I feel like I don't see me. And around that time is also when they added 4C, they tacked it on to the Andre Walker hair typing system because they're like, I clearly have a coil. It's not a zigzag, or, you know, we really can't, we haven't been able to decipher if he meant the 4B was a zigzag or a side view of a 4C curl. We have no idea. However, it was tacked on and I said, oh, I guess that's what I have. And it really
I guess that one's me.
I think that's me, you know, this little cartoon drawing. And I would just remember someone commenting me and be like, oh, you have 4C hair. I said, 4C, what the hell is that? I didn't know. And so for me, it started with research and seeing that representation on, you know, hair care forums and being like, okay. And then from there, that's when the real journey began. After the excitement died down and the curiosity and the mystique of it all, it goes, okay, this is what I have. What do I do with it now? And so the education piece for me was so crucial. You know, in the beginning, I was so obsessed with what my curl type was. And it wasn't until much later that, you know, information about what porosity and density and how to properly moisturize, you know, came about. And I started to think, oh, well, okay, this is normal. This, I'm starting to understand this. And so what I do on my YouTube channel is, in the midst of the fun and the personality that you get, I try to drop the knowledge, because
you drop a lot of knowledge. Stop being all modest. You drop a lot of knowledge. I mean, I learned a couple of things on there. You know, I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I'd see the beginning, I'd see the after. I was like, all right. You know, I don't know if mine's going to look like that, but it's giving me hope. It's giving me hope I could do something with this.
And that's the thing. It's like, what I always try to say is, one, there are no rules. And two, it is a process, you know, because you're not only just learning what to do with it, there's an emotional process that happens as well. And in learning that, you know, oh, you know, the kinkier your hair is, the more that when the light bounces off of it, that light is fragmented. So, oh, my hair is not going to be shiny unless I straighten it out and create that smooth surface. Oh, this is why, you know, I have low porosity hair. This is why when I wet my hair, it takes me a day and a half to get it soaked. You know, or you know,
mine's not that long.
Right. Well,
I'm the other end of the spectrum. Mine's dry. Like I'm good.
Yeah, you know, but you know, just having that education piece of knowing, you know, type 4 hair really is innately dry, because we're not getting, you know, that natural oil coming from our scalp. We're not getting that sebum traveling down. So I have to actually put oil on my hair strands, and I have to do this multiple times. I have to hydrate with, you know, a product that has water as the first ingredient. I actually have to hydrate with water first. And these are the things that I want to impart, because then once you know that knowledge and you know the why behind it, then with that knowledge, you comes the love, right? You go, oh, I understand now. You know, and we, you know, and in a way, and I don't want to completely compare this to apples, but, you know, in the year 2020 that we're in, there's been a lot of turmoil between, you know, blacks and whites and police brutality and all of this. And there's been a lot of mind shifts happening. And I think, you know, with understanding comes compassion, comes empathy, comes love and appreciation and adoration. And I think that that's sort of where we're, you know, when we are thinking about our hair and you think about that concept, it's, I understand now. Now that I understand, now I can appreciate, and now I can love. And I think that's always where I've been headed. You know, I love, you know, creating a space for people to explore. And I like also to show myself in states where I'm not the expert as well. You know, let me try this. Let me try this hairstyle and see if it'll work on me, you know, because I think it's important for people to see that too. See someone trying, because a lot of times we will, and I know I'm going on a tangent. A lot of times we will see things and automatically count ourselves out. And so I think that representation piece is so huge, to see someone going, a wash and go. I'm afraid because of the tangles I might incur, but let me try this out.
Let me give it a go.
Watch someone go through that process and go, oh my God, I can probably do that too. That's so huge. And so I think that, you know, as I had, bringing it back to your question, as I started to learn and started to experiment and share, and the more people I saw, you know, that look like me doing it, the more confidence I built up, and the more I sought that representation out. And so I always say to people, you know, if you feel like you don't love your hair, you need to fix your algorithms, right? You need to, you know, start seeking out people who look like you, who, you know, have your skin color, have your hair texture, have your body shape, are doing things that you want to do in life. You need to seek those people out. And soon enough, as you start to feed your mind and your spirit with, you know, these images and these stories, eventually your algorithm is going to be fixed, right? The algorithm of your mind, as well as what all of these social media platforms are doing. And then you start seeing more like you. And that's one of the things that I always try to impart. I'm like, y'all got to fix y'all algorithms. You
gotta fix the thinking, fix what's coming in, and then the rest of it kind of flows. I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, because you kind of skimmed over it, but I pay attention. I've been paying attention to what my guests be saying, and there's almost, you know, and I think it's very similar, not just hair, but in various different areas of life. Anytime you're kind of coming back to yourself in some way, especially if you think that person that you're coming back to is not acceptable in the space, and whether that's to do with your hair, whether that's to do with how you like to dress, whether that's to do with your sexuality, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, the principle is still the same in some regards, but one of the things with hair, or, you know, if it's dressing or something, you've got the physical element, which kind of seems kind of practical. You just keep growing it and chop, you know, or you do a big chop and you chop the whole lot off. But you also mentioned an emotional roller coaster. Girl, I wasn't prepared for that. Nobody informed me, right? So I had a couple of moments. First, I just putting braids in until I could get to the hairdresser. That was actually what was happening. Yes. And then I thought, maybe I'll just keep this going for a little bit longer and see how I feel. I can always just go and do longer, you know. I just wasn't in a rush to get to the hairdressers, right? And then I thought, maybe I'll just leave it. Maybe I'll just see, you know. Then I got on YouTube and started watching videos, but I wasn't prepared for the, oh my gosh, is that what my hair looks like? And, you know, I wasn't prepared for the emotional kind of up and down. I wasn't prepared for the shame that kind of came up at points where I was like, I'm ashamed of my hair. Where did that come from? You know? So what can you say to people who are perhaps this year has been their coming back to natural hair year? Maybe that's been their thing. Maybe they're in the same camp as I am. In terms of shoring themselves up emotionally for this journey, such that they don't just hit a point and go, you know what, sod this. Let me just go in and just straighten it all back up again. It'll be easy.
I think, well, the first thing I'd say is it's absolutely normal. I went through it. I think most people have gone through that when they are trying anything new, but especially when it comes to something so, it's such a highlighted feature, especially in females, and the men, they're chiming in now too, and I love it. And for so many people, not only are they faced with the societal norms of what beauty is, they're also faced with it within their own personal relationships as well, their family, their friends, their loved ones. And so it can be super challenging, incredibly challenging emotionally, and everyone wants to feel loved, right? Yeah. And part of that is, you know, part of that for a lot of people is feeling desired and feeling beautiful and feeling accepted. And I think accepted is probably the core piece of it. And so I wanted to say that it's absolutely normal. 100%. I'm with you. I feel you. I feel like I can feel your listeners right now. I also want to go back to the piece of seeking out that representation for yourself. I think there's so much information, and there's so many people now that were not available when I first started, and it's only getting bigger and better. But also, I think sometimes as people, we will look at another person who seems to have it all together, and we compare, or we think, oh, well, that's for them and it's not for me.
Yeah.
And you know, so many people have even commented on my videos or on my blog or on social media and just saying, well, you can do that, but I can't. And it's such a limiting belief. And also because I think a lot of times the emotional journey also comes from the perception of beauty and what we feel beauty is. I think especially when it comes to women in particular, because I know that I can speak to that being a woman. You know, beauty, the idea of what's beautiful is it's such a highlight in our lives, right? Even since when we were children, right? You know, being groomed, this is what you do, this is what you say, this is how you get a husband, this is how you get a wife, whatever. But, you know, it's so ingrained in us to sort of fit this mold, right? And so we need to find that support, whether that's online, whether that's in our peers, whether that's in the people that we choose to have relationships with. You know, you have to have that support in some way, shape, or form. And in the beginning, for me, it was not in my family. It was people outside of my family. It was the internet. It was, you know, people who had subscribed to me, commenting. And it's so important to share that, you know, if you see someone who has natural hair or is transitioning or is talking illy of their hair, you need to say something, not in not in an aggressive way, you know, mind your business if you need to. But if you have a friend that's going, oh, I just can't, oh, my hair is so ugly today, or oh my God, it's giving me such grief, speak love into them. Let them know that you think that it's beautiful, and in turn, you will get that back. And I know it sounds kind of, you know, woo-woo or like a little too, I don't know. I don't even know the word. You guys know what I mean, though. But we need that.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, and I think you're absolutely correct. I think I know for me, my excitement kicked in when I kind of dived into the YouTube wormhole. And then what I've noticed is I've noticed more people around me who either have natural hair or transitioned. And I remember earlier in the year, I remember having a call with a couple of ladies that I was working with at the time. And one of them's got completely natural hair and the other one is Caucasian with dead straight hair, right? And I'm trying to explain, and I basically went, listen, babe, it's like I've got part of your hair and part of her hair, like smashed together right now. And she went, oh, I went, She went, I can see why that would be a problem. I said, it's a problem, right? But I think it's that shoring ourselves up. And I love that you say it doesn't have to be within your family, because sometimes you're like, I'm blessed. My mom and my sister, my mother went first and then my sister went second, one of my sisters. The other one is just like, I'm keeping mine straight. And I was with her. Okay. So family wise, I think I have quite a bit of support there. And my husband's just like, I don't know why you keep straightening it. I'd quite like to keep it. I'd quite like to see it curly. So that's nice. But if you don't have that, I love that you make your own tribe, collect friends, watch the YouTube videos, like, you know, find somewhere that you can go. There's lots of communities online right now in which you can have that support until you are at that space where you're like, you know what, I don't care what you think. This is how I'm going to show up today and it's working for me. So I think it's beautiful. I don't care what you think.
Exactly.
I could talk about this for ages, partially for my own selfish reasons. I'm not going to lie. But I think there's a beautiful conversation in there for us to have with ourselves about where we may be hiding our authentic self because we're wanting to be accepted. And the rhetoric, at least in the Black community, has typically been, once you make it, then you can let loose. And I hope this conversation will help people to maybe kind of go, you know what, I don't need to play and pretend, but I can play and learn how to show up really well as me. And if LaToya can do it and she acts, then y'all can do it too. That's all I'm gonna say.
Absolutely.
If there's a place in the world where people can be judged, it's acting and modeling.
You are 100% right. And I think that that's such an amazing point. I think even when you go natural and you've even been there for, you know, you've been dealing with your hair and loving it and caring for it for a while, you can have those dips, because even I did. I texturized. I thought I was texturizing, but I was really relaxing my hair. It was terrible. And then I started thinking, why did I do this? And at the time I thought, I'm just bored of my hair. I want something different. And I don't want to wear a wig because it's too hot in California. But then I realized, wow, I don't think I had fully accepted the fact that if I wash my hair and I want to go out, that's okay. You know what I mean? My hair doesn't have to look a specific way, you know, because even when you go natural, it's like, okay, I always need to be in a braid out. I always need to be in a twist out. It always needs to be styled in some way. And then you look at, you know, people with other hair types and how they can wash their hair and go and feel completely comfortable with that because they're validated in society, you know, for people to think, oh, that's beautiful and acceptable. But if you have type 4 hair and you wash your hair and you go, it's still not done. And I think that was the next level that I had to get to. And that's where I'm at today, where I'm going, wow, I didn't realize I had that block. I had been natural at that point for 5 years when I texturized. And then because I kept saying it's so time consuming. I can't just get up and go. I want to be like the other people who can just go in the ocean and not worry about their twist out. And I had locked myself back into that same pattern I had when I had chemically treated hair. And then I said, okay, how can I now get to a place in which I accept and love the versatility of my hair, but also I love the way it looks fresh out of a wash.
Do you know what I love about you is that you've played a lot. Like that word play has come up so much in terms of rather than let me accept the status quo, let me just go and play. Let me test a few different things. Let me see what other people out there are saying. You know, there's got to be somebody out there that can do something with my hair type. Like it can't just be that, you know, I was born with this hair type and that's it. I'm banished. You banished to the back of the world or something. You know, there's got to be something that I can do that's easy. And I love that about you. But I think it's also just really helpful to remind ourselves to identify those blocks. And it could be hair. It might be something else in your life, girls. You know, it could be something else. But, you know, to identify those and question them, like kind of go. I love the way that you question it. It's like, how can I love the versatility and have the flexibility? Not it's either or, but how could I have both of these? Like what is out there? Surely I mustn't be the first person who's asked this question. Like literally what is out there that can help me support that? And the more you're looking for that, you'll find that there are other people who are doing the same thing. Girl, I could be talking here to you about this for time immemorial, but we're going to have to move this thing along a little bit. Otherwise I'm going to be stuck.
I hear you.
We're gonna be stuck here because I just want my own hair tips, to be fair, you know. Anyhow, you have to. She has a YouTube channel. You can go ask them there. All the links are in the show notes. So now I'm curious because this conversation is really kind of awoken something in me or revived something in me around what it means to be authentic and what it means to be powerful. So I'm really curious from you, with your perspective, especially, you know, having natural hair and acting and the journey that you've been on exploring your hair, what is it that you think makes a woman powerful?
I would say, one, we give life to the world. Literally, no one would be here without us. That is power in itself. I'm like, oh, I'm special, you know? So just knowing that, I have to dust my shoulders off just a little bit. But then beyond that, one of the things that I love about women is that we have this innate ability to not only operate in a factual sense, you know, how they say in business, like, you know, don't use your emotion, you know, look at the facts. Valid, right? But we have this innate ability to also combine our gut and our emotions. And, you know, somewhere down the line, someone said like being emotional in business is bad. And I just had to question that because, you know, I love questioning things. And I said, well, what is a gut feeling? That's an emotion. There's nothing that there's no factual explanation for what a gut feeling is. And we hear successful people say that all the time. Well, I just followed my gut. That's an emotion. So the idea that, you should shrink your emotions in business, I think is misguided and maybe mislabeled. I think we have this ability to be incredibly effective leaders because we really do. We read the room well. We read people's emotions very well. We read body language very well. We are so detail oriented. And this is something, the way that a woman's mind works is, caveman days, we were the hunters and gatherers, and we had to communicate that this particular berry in this part of town is poisonous. Don't eat that. And we have all of these systems. And it's something I heard, I think Tony Robbins talk about. And it's so true. We have such an innate ability to pay attention to detail and also combine those gut feelings with what's exactly in front of us. And if you find a woman that does that and embraces all of her and what she describes as femininity to her, while playing this game that's quote unquote a man's game and not shrinking herself to be the great woman behind the great man, which those women, everyone chooses their path, but what you choose is where you stand, and you stand strong in that, and using all of you, I think, is the best way to get there.
Oh, girl, so you done said so much in that one thing. Oh, girl. To be honest, I think you summarized the season in terms of what everybody else done said. I was like, were you channeling in all of the past guests with the answers to that question? You just channeled them all in. If you haven't listened to the rest of the season up until now, you just got the summary. LaToya has literally just taken the season and just summarized the whole darn thing for us. And I love the variety in female power. And I think it's something that we sometimes forget we've got. So thank you for the reminder. But now I'm going to have to get to real business, girl. We're going to have to get right down to the nitty gritty of it. So I ask all my guests this one question. It's like the pinnacle of the show, right? And the question is, if we were to take everything that you have done to date in your whole life and your whole business, look at me acting. We were to take all of it and boil it down just to 3 core things that you would say have been absolutely fundamental for the success that you've had in your life and business. Only 3, and they could be tools, techniques, ways of being, you define them. What would those 3 things be? What would you call I call them power tools. What would your 3 power tools be?
100% following your gut and that intuition that we have. I would not be here today if I didn't do that, if I didn't turn on my camera full of tears and just show up full of tears and just show up as myself and say, this is where I feel I need to go next. I feel, I love makeup. I love looking good. I love fashion, but this is where my spirit is telling me I need to be. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here. Secondly, I would say imagination. And it's something that I'm so proud of having. I'm married. My husband is always talking about imagination in children and how we provoke that within adults. And myself being an actress, we cultivate our imagination from day one when you start training. And it's something that I love having, because if I can't imagine myself, my future self, I do this all the time. They call it envisioning, or it's basically imagination. It's a sophisticated way of saying imagination, and seeing myself in the future and being like, that's what I want to be. That's where I see that I'm heading, and being able to envision the steps leading up to that. And I do that multiple times throughout the year. By the end of the year, where do I want to be? In 5 years, where do I want to be? If I had the perfect life, what would that look like? And what can I do now to make sure that happens? And is there a piece of that? That is such a
powerful question. What can I do now to make that happen? I love because sometimes people can get stuck in like future pacing. I call it like the humana effect. Like, let me just sit and think about what's happening next. But I love, I love that question of like, what can I do now to make it happen? I just think that's beautiful.
100%. One of my dreams is like to travel. I really want to travel more. I've been to Italy, I've been to Canada, but I want to do more. And I'm like, well, what can I do today? I may not be able to travel today, obviously, pandemic. However, can I be saving money? You probably should renew that passport. You need to be prepared. I should, like, and I think that having that imagination affords you the preparation so that when opportunity strikes, you can take advantage. You never know, in 6 months, someone could say, oh, I want you to speak in Paris, like Miss Lovelda, and I don't have my passport. You just missed that opportunity. So imagination affords that.
So I love that you say that, because I've never heard it described like that before, that imagination affords the time for preparation. Like I've literally, because you normally kind of think of like imagination is off with the fairies and preparation is right here and very grounded. And to kind of say, actually using that, it's almost like, girl, you just described the bridge between imagination and like here. I'm going to go imagine, and then I'm going to go and kind of go, what can I do today? And I'm just going to do that thing. And that brings me back to this present moment. So I love that. So you've got your intuition and your gut, you've got your imagination. And then if you were going to put the third leg on this three-legged stool of what it is what your power tools are, what would that be?
It would be grit and perseverance. 100%. You need that. There's going to be so many no's. And I've learned this from acting. Y'all, I'm not an A-list actor yet. But I think that grit and that perseverance is so key, because it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow. However, if you keep at it, something will happen. And also what that does is it creates the flexibility in your plan, right? The pivots that we need. We go, okay, so this is not working. So what do I need to do next so that I can make this happen, or at least get close to it? Or maybe it changes for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, a lot of things have changed when I had my son, and I started thinking, ooh, actually, I didn't have leisure time in my plan. I need to pivot a little bit. So what does that mean for me? And it's all of these questions and that grit, that perseverance, that saying, I think a lot of times we equate pivoting with like quitting or giving up, and it's actually not. Or we think that quitting is such a bad thing. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're just making lots of pivots. We're going, you know what? I can change my mind on this. Actually, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This doesn't fit with where I want to go anymore. Let me pivot. And that's honestly something that I'm having to do even in my acting career now, with, COVID happening and the studios not being open and the auditions being so limited. I've had to pivot and, switch my focus more to what I have control over, which right now is my YouTube channel and my website and social media. It doesn't mean that acting is not still there. It's that I had to pivot. And that's a part of grit and perseverance and being like, okay, now where are we at now? We are not done. We are just pivoting.
My guest literally before this, Kubi Springer, talks about the difference between a pivot and a turn. And she's like, a pivot is you're still in your lane. You just had to turn, she goes, you just move to the side a little bit, you pivot. When you turn, that's when you left it's dust. Like turn is like, it's goodbye. And so I love that kind of notion. And I love that this stuff kind of works out beautifully. It's like, if you didn't listen to Kubi, she doesn't explain this with some good examples. And then LaToya has come in and gone, and here's another one, just in case you were wondering if you should drop that thing you're doing altogether. No. We just take a little pivot, just a little side twist. You don't need to drop it. But I love that idea of like monitoring what's here in front of me right now, and then just making those small adjustments. And sometimes that means that something needs to go to the side, or you can't give it as much attention as you used to be able to give it. But that doesn't mean you destroyed it and you binned it. She's still an actress, y'all. She is still an actress. She's just not acting as much right now because of the situation, but she's still an actress.
You know, I feel like I have my own show every day, twice a week on YouTube. I'm still doing camera work, you know? Like, this is me, this is my personality, but it's still camera work. And in fact, it's a wider spectrum. Now I'm producing, I'm writing, I'm the talent, I'm the editor, I'm the business woman behind it, you know? And I think sometimes it just takes that shift in perspective.
And I think sometimes the thing that seems like a side thing is actually the thing that shores you up more for the role that you're doing. I remember when I started emceeing, I used to host so many freaking events. I didn't even know why. Like, people just kept asking me to help host events. And so what I got to see is, I actually understand this from multiple perspectives, because I've spoken on stages. So I understand what that's like for the people I'm introducing. I've sat in audiences, so I understand that experience. And I've organized events. So I'm not that person who's going to be a pain in the ass, because I know what it's like when you have somebody come to you 3 minutes before they're supposed to go and go, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. And you got to smile and bear through it. So, you know, so therefore, you know, I didn't realize that puts me in a very unique position when it comes to emceeing, that I actually have a fuller understanding of the market. And then having done hosting and radio and podcasts and all that sort of stuff, you know, you just don't know how it all fits together. That gives people a fuller version of you, which gives you a much more unique perspective to somebody who's like, all I've ever done is acted. Like, I don't quite understand this. So, you know, what do they mean directing? Like, you kind of understand, it's just nuances you pick up where you're like, I'm just going to pause here. We had a blip earlier, and LaToya was like, so this is where I'm going to pick up from. I was like, you know what? That's why you got to work with an actress, because you just don't know. You don't know when it's going to come in, right? It's just skills you don't know. You know, we take them for granted, and you just don't know when you're going to need them. Mamma mia. This has been delicious.
Said it better.
Delicious. Such a good conversation. There are going to be people who are listening to this point who perhaps are like me, transition. Or they active in terms of what can be done with it, and they're thinking, wait a minute, did this chick say wash and go and she's got a little baby? Jeez Louise, how do we do this? For those people, what is the best way of connecting with you? Like, if they wanted to stay connected and find out more, what are the best ways of reaching out?
So my website has everything that you ever wanted to know about me. So that's LaToyaEbony.com. And you can also find me on YouTube, searching LaToya Ebony, and on Instagram, LaToya_Ebony. But I'm sure if you search LaToya Ebony, you would find me.
And it's all in the show notes. Sorry, I got a show notes dance.
And honestly, guys, if you are someone who's interested in what their hair pattern and texture is, I have a download for you. If you go to LaToyaEbony.com, under About, there's going to be free downloads, and there's a whole list of resources that you can download, and then use the LOIS LOIS hair typing system to help you, because it not only shows pattern, it also shows texture. It educates on texture, which I think there's a little confusion there. I think people always, they sort of say, well, you have 4C, but mine doesn't look like yours. Check out the LOIS hair typing system.
Ooh. All in the notes, freebies as well, all in the notes. So you can go over to LaToyaEbony.com and then go to the resources page. Don't worry, we got you. It's in the links, right? And check out all the freebies up in there, because she's got some tools for us. LaToya, thank you so much for sharing so much, and for I love it when people can come on this show and just be so open. And you know, for me, it's useful to kind of watch people, especially who've been on a hair journey, kind of talk about what that journey was about, to normalize it. Because, you know, sometimes you're like, I feel like I'm a bit cray-cray here. Like, is this normal? So that's been really helpful. If you were to leave us today, because I'm greedy, and even though you shared so much, I still want more. So if you were to leave us, say, with just like one nugget, like one thing where you can say, look, this is, if you take nothing else from this show, take this. What would that be? Feed us.
I think I'm a bit of a macabre thinker, a little morbid. But I would say, whether it's, you know, with how you present yourself in the world, the thoughts you have, the things you decide to do, at some point, it's all going to be over. You won't be on earth forever. So if you're dreaming of being this person you see in your head who loves themselves and loves their hair and loves their style, today, seize the day, c'est la vie. Like, it's today. You only have right now. We're only promised this second. And so whatever you can do to get closer to where you want to be, and even if it's something small that you can implement today, if you say like take that vacation at your job, you know, cut that relaxer off if you want to, go buy that nice outfit for yourself, take care of your debt. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that I think this year especially, I think it reminds us that, you know, even though life is the longest thing that we're ever going to do, it's not guaranteed. And it also sometimes feels very short. And so if we're not seizing those moments and we're not showing up as our authentic selves today, right now, in this moment, that thing you've always wanted to say to your husband or your child or your friend, and you haven't gotten a chance to say it, or that compliment you want to give, just do it. You have to. Your life literally depends on it. Your legacy depends on it. And you'll also be happier in the long run.
Just do it. You know what? These are such words of wisdom going into the new year. Like, we are wrapping up 2020 and it's a great time for reflection. And I think there's such words of wisdom for people who perhaps felt like they've been thrown to the sharks this year and have been in survival mode, to remember to step into imagination and seize the day. And you don't need to necessarily sounds bad, throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you know what I mean. You don't need to change everything all at the same time, but take those steps forward in the direction of that which you love, and therefore you may be able to create it. LaToya, you have been absolutely awesome. Y'all need to go check her out. Links are in the show notes. You need to go watch some of her videos on YouTube, because that's what got this happening. That's all I'm gonna say. Until next time, remember, you have got only a few days to get yourself in the holiday draw, which means you have to like the Instagram channel, which is Lovelda Show. And you need to say something to us. Make sure we're tagged in the show. And by us, it's me and my multiple personalities. And you will go into a draw to win a free profile audit with moi. I will go through all of your online digital profiles and see how you are stacking up for speaking gigs with you one-to-one. I got you, but you need to be in it to win it, if you know what I mean. That is all we have time for, folks. We have a few more episodes. I say a few more. We have literally one more episode left in this season, and it's gonna be a good one. Until next time, my gorgeouses, you have been listening to The Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. Until next time, ciao.